Want to know what it feels like when your $700 pocket knife picks up its first scratch?
What's good? Bevan here with Tried and True EDC. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Strider SnG. But before we jump into a tabletop view, I'm going to share a story. So I did pick up my very first scratch on this knife, and it was a little bit heartbreaking. And let me tell you what happened. So if you've ever experienced getting a pocket knife where the pocket clip itself doesn't seat flush or contacts the frame of the pocket knife, and if you tap on it, it makes a tapping sound. Now, interesting enough, this is not making that sound anymore. However, I was carrying it for a day right before the filming of this video, and I have thick seams on my pocket liners. And from carrying it through about half of the day, when I pulled it out, I noticed that there was some tapping. So somehow it made the clip lift up a bit, so it started tapping against the frame. Something like that. It wasn't a big deal because I've had that experience on other pocket knives with pocket clips. So I went to try to take off the pocket clip so I can bend it back. Especially with titanium pocket clips, that's an easy thing to do. However, when I went to try to unscrew this, you'll see the scratches that I picked up right there and right there. They must have used some really strong thread locker because for the life of me, I was not able to unscrew the pocket clip screw. And at one point I slipped and the driver went downwards and made a scratch right there and there. Yeah, it was a bit heartbreaking at first. And so, but what can you do? I personally like to use my knives and just kind of convince myself it wasn't a big deal. At least now the honeymoon period is over. But let's jump in and take a deeper dive into the Strider SnG. When you buy a Strider, you get premium packaging. That's right, this is a state-of-the-art plastic baggie. And I'd be willing to bet on my non-existent knives that this thing is bulletproof. With all jokes aside, I know the majority of us aren't buying knives for the packaging, but it is a nice touch. So on this SnG, this is the Ghost HC. The Ghost references the ghost striping you see on the blade as well as the titanium handle. And this does use a dagger grind. It's beautifully done. This is coming in at Magnacut for the steel. It's got a thumb hole for the opener. You get M. Strider on the front side. And on the back, you get his insignia, made in the USA. I really like the swedge they did on top. But let's take a look and see if it'll cut. We'll start off with some magazine paper. It's a little rough. Yeah, not that clean. Just try out the zip tie. Ooh, that took a lot of force. How about some rope? Yikes. All right. This is not very clean. The edge can use some refinement, that's for sure. Oh boy. I'm going to have to sharpen this. The handle, as I mentioned, is titanium, and it's the first time I've picked up a titanium Strider. It uses standoffs rather than the way they do their aluminum, as well as their G10 models. It's integrated backspacer, and I do actually like the open look design. It's got 2 points of hardware for the backspacers and then the pivot. It's got a backspacer up here, but it acts more like a blade stop in the closed position. And you can tell because it contacts it right there, or maybe you can't tell. The camera's not really picking it up. It's got jimping up here, as well as the blade. So when you open it, you do have this full length of jimping. It's a bit sharp on the handle itself, and it does get a little more smoothed out as you get to the blade. This one does use their unique pivot tool. I've found that you can pick up a biking tool that if you shave it down, you can use the prongs to hold this in place as you unscrew this side. It's got a lock bar stabilizer. As you can see, it is a frame lock. Lockup is quite early on this still. The centering on this is perfection, really well done. let's look at some size comparisons to some popular models. I got the PM2 up top from Spyderco, the Para 3 on bottom. Cutting edge is longer on the PM2. Got a Benchmade bug out in the bottom and the 940-1 up top, both from Benchmade. Yeah, it's longer than both of those. Let's see if the cutting edge is comparable to the bug out. The bug out actually has a longer cutting edge. So certainly the 940 will also have a longer cutting edge. Let's take a look at some dimensions. The weight on this one is coming in at 5.54 ounces. The overall length is just slightly over 8 inches. The blade itself is a 4-inch blade, but when you drill it down to the cutting edge, it's coming in closer to 2 3/4 of an inch, slightly above that. The action on this one is spectacular. I've had a few Strider SnGs come across my hands, and this has the best action out the plastic bag I've ever handled. You can easily reverse flick it. It's not much snap though. It is running on washers, so you definitely feel the weight. It doesn't really snap open, but I like the acoustics on Strider knives. The SnG, especially with the titanium handle, gives it a nice, unique acoustic. Easy to disengage. And a lot of Striders I've come across, once it locks up, it still has room to continue moving over. This one has no additional movement. So locks up very solid. There's a hint of blade play, but I think that plays into the action itself to make it a little bit more smooth. An interesting thing I found is that this is the only Strider I've ever come across. If you can notice that white part right there, the only thing that comes to mind is that it's plumber's tape. It's like a coating around the washer itself. I haven't taken it apart to confirm exactly what it is. I don't think it's lubricant or fluorinated grease, just because how consistently shaped it is. It's something that's kind of coated, I think, or wrapped around the washer. Other than aesthetics, I don't really mind it because it really helps make it smooth. I'm not entirely sure if that's the reason, but I actually don't mind it. I prefer the action being as smooth as it is, and I'm okay living with that, whatever that is right there. These are not thumb studs, but more like a blade stop. So it does keep it in place as it locks up right there. It does contact the scales. You can see by the shiny areas, the wear that's taken on. Now, while you can use it to open it, it's not as comfortable and not as secure. So certainly use the thumb hole for the opener. This even has a semi-drop when you disengage the lock. Not very much, but I'd imagine it will get a little bit smoother through time. And it feels like it does have a detent ramp, because as soon as you hit the detent ball right there, you can overcome it with just a slight bit of pressure. And I don't think that's been on my other Striders. The ergonomics on this one is good, but it's pretty much the same on all the Striders I've had. If you don't use your finger choil in a saber grip, you will certainly feel the pocket clip right there and a little bit right there. The ramp on the pocket clip is quite pronounced, and we'll touch more on that later. So you'll certainly feel the pressure that's putting into your palm. If you choke up using the finger choil, it feels slightly more comfortable, and the only point of pressure you are going to feel, again, is from that point of that pocket clip that digs in right there, but you won't get anything else of the pocket clip pressing into your hand. The hammer grip and saber grip, actually the hammer grip is a little better. Another thing in the saber grip, if you're not using the finger choil, this portion of the handle will put a bit of pressure into your palm as well. So to be honest, ergonomic wise, this isn't that comfortable. It's not uncomfortable, but I've certainly felt and handled knives that have better ergonomics. And even when you do choke up into the finger choil, if you press down hard enough, you're going to feel the bits of pressure from this portion of the handle digging into your fingers right here. Let's talk about the pocket clip. So at the beginning, in the intro of this video, I talked about how the pocket clip started tapping because the thick seams on my jeans started to lift it up enough where, in a way, bend it. So, because when I received it, there was no tapping. It was touching the titanium's, the lock bar. Interesting enough, after I tried to remedy that by trying to take apart the pocket clip, however, didn't work. The thread locker they used, it must be top tier because I cannot get this loose. And I'm using Weeha bits, which have a reputation to be incredibly strong and sturdy. And as you can see, it actually started to strip the screw. So I kind of just gave up on it. Fortunately, the tapping went away. Well, you can hear that, but it's still touching the titanium, the lock bar. So there's no gap between it anymore. Somehow it alleviated that. But when I was really going at it, and I was careful because I've been handling knives a while and disassembling them, but the integrity of the pocket clip screw gave out and caused the bit to slip. And I even tried with my right hand and left hand. It's a bit unfortunate, but then at the same time, once you pick up your first scratch, you're more courageous in using it. If you're someone who kind of goes through that honeymoon phase, so the honeymoon phase is pretty much over, especially with the scratch, which kind of makes it more free to kind of just use it as is now. And I've always been someone who uses their knives, so it's not really a big deal. But I wanted to call that out for Strider. Maybe not use such strong thread locker. Let's take a shot of this in the pocket. All right, so easy in, easy out. These are not the jeans that I'm wearing nowadays, so it's not so much an issue. Certainly easier to extract. The current jeans I am wearing, the seams are probably twice as thick. And so what happens is I try to lift it out, all that material gets stuck in the lock bar relief right here. And I actually cannot extract the knife unless I lift up on the pocket clip, which is probably what caused it to um, come out of contact with the lock bar. Just kind of give you a closer look. It takes up a decent amount of real estate, but not so much where you can't get your hand in there. Or if you're someone who puts things in the same pocket as your pocket knife, you would have some room in there. Quite a bit of knife does stick out though, as you can see. For me, I talk about this often. It's not really a big deal to me. I started appreciating the fact that I'm able to get more purchase when I'm trying to extract a pocket knife. Certainly not for those who enjoy deep carry pocket clips though. And kind of just want to touch on the ramp. That is a decent amount of ramp. This is very thin, so though it's made of titanium, which I prefer because you can mold it if you need to, if it comes out of shape. But the ramp is plenty. You should be able to get over most thicknesses. As I mentioned, my current jeans pocket that I wear often does have thick seams. It's easy to overcome it and put into your pocket. My issue is that it gets stuck up right here when I'm trying to extract it. Cost and availability on this one, well, it's not currently available. I picked this up from Monkey Edge and for $675, and that's before shipping. So it came out to about close to 700. I've seen these on the aftermarket for quite the markup. I think recently I looked at one on Arizona Custom Knives and they had one for $975. Quite the markup on these. I don't see these very often, so I can see why the secondary markup is there. So if you're trying to get one, find the. I'll post the link for the product listing for the Monkey Edge where I picked it up from. Sign up for restock notifications, and hopefully you can grab one of these at market price rather than the secondary price. What are my final thoughts? I really like this one. As I mentioned, I've had quite a few Striders come across my collection. I've never really thought it was worth the price point. The ones I would picked up were also from Monkey Edge with the Monkey Edge frag pattern, but G10 models, and they were around 650. I felt like there was a lot of misses. The G10 was rough, sharp edges, but they did a really nice job with this titanium version. It feels really nice in hand. Outside the hot spots and the pressures you might feel from the pocket clip, and also this portion of the handle, it's got a premium feel to it. It's got good weight, but not overly heavy at 5.5 ounces. Edge can certainly use a touch up. Quite disappointed that it wouldn't even slice magazine paper. I buy knives from all different price points, and usually those cutting tasks I do in my videos isn't an issue whatsoever. I want to do a little close-up comparison. So this is aluminum on this one right here, and it feels really nice. It feels a little bit colder to touch. Weight-wise, it does feel lighter. They both use titanium scales for the lock side. Everything else is quite similar outside of the standoffs versus this integrated backspacer. You do see the screws on the titanium version where it's a much cleaner look with this aluminum one. This one I picked up from Knife Joy, in case you're wondering. It's one of their exclusives. I'm impressed. I think the action was the biggest thing for me. A lot of times, action on a Strider, it's okay. Feels a little bit, I want to say gritty, but it just isn't as smooth. This one came out very smooth, right out the pack, right out the bag. I'm not happy about this, but I'm over it. You know, I just think that they shouldn't be Loctiting it to the point where you can't um, disassemble it or unscrew it. And if you are going to Loctite it, use higher quality screws, because this one stripped quite easily and nothing happened to my bit. But must be a softer screw. And the reason why it looks the way it does is because after it got stripped a little bit, part of the metal was sticking up, so it was kind of catching on material. You can feel the sharp surfaces. So I sanded it down a bit. I would rather smooth it out and have it look like this, where it's more worn, and then the other way around. Let me know if you're a fan of Striders. I know people have their own opinions about Strider and Strider knives, and I'm actually enjoying it. I am going to sharpen this though. Really appreciate you tuning in, and I'm actually filming this on Thanksgiving Day. By the time it releases, Thanksgiving will be over. But if you end up watching this, really appreciate you. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy the rest of your day and stay frosty.